covering chapter 1 all the way to 23 of our summer reading novel, The Giver. So basically in chapter number 1, we know that we had that plane flying on top of the community, and we saw that that a lot of the people were scared because of this plane flying over. It's something that the community was not used to, and so it created a commotion at the beginning of it. Okay. We also knew in chapter number 1 that everyone had their bicycles. At some point, they were going to have those bicycles, but we know that everyone was capable at their point to have their bicycles, okay? Also, we had a briefing on the releasing. Chapter number 1, we have what was the word release, but we didn't have like an overall explanation of what in fact was being released, okay? We also know in chapter number 1 that we had the sharing of feelings. So that dream telling in the mornings, that was done. Also, we know that the father of Jonas was also nervous about this child that he was taking care of. That's also in chapter number 1. And we also had a hint that Jonas was concerned about the ceremony of 12. So everything like in the first half of the book will be concentrated into that. Those nerves that Jonas have, at least chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, will be concentrated on the nerves of Jonas on that ceremony that is approaching. So now as we approach to chapter 2, Jonas has a conversation with the parents about what in particular?
Stirring.
Not the stirrings.
Oh, he was nervous.
The nerves that he had at the ceremony of 12. So they had a private conversation. Jonas, mom and dad, like Lily was not involved here, okay? It's also revealed in chapter 2 that the 9s get what? Bicycles. So we have that revealed. Also, it's revealed that after the ceremony of 12, there's no more ceremonies. Once you're 12, you continue on with your assignment, and people tend to what? They forget about the age. Why? Because you don't have that concept. Like every time a ceremony happens, you have the reminder that you're going 1 year older and older. Once you get the year 12, people tend to forget about it. Okay? We know that in the ceremony of 12, assignments are given, those ultimate jobs that you're going to do for the rest of your life until you're being released are going to be given in that ceremony of 12. And the majority of the people in the community are happy with the jobs they get. Okay? So now in chapter number 3, Gabe comes into scene. And Gabe is going to arrive, and he's been brought to the house, in this case to the dwelling, by the father. Lily's going to notice something particular about Gabe and Jonas. What is that?
The eyes.
The eyes. There's something peculiar in those eyes, and that's why she began to tease Jonas and all of that. Okay? Chapter 3, it's also when the apple comes into scene. When he sees the apple, like, starts seeing those glimpses of color with the apple, okay? What happens with Asher and the apple? What happens with Asher? He doesn't what?
He doesn't see.
Like, he doesn't see it, he doesn't notice. Like, the one that is able to notice that thing with the apple is only Jonas, okay? Now, going to chapter number 4, Jonas volunteers to go with who? With Asher and Fiona to the house of the old. Remember that in chapter 4, okay? So what do they do there in the house of the old? And they take care, they bathe the old. And Jonas had a conversation with whom? Starts with an L. What character? What? No. It's Larissa. And they had a conversation about, remember they were talking about that they should allow kids to witness the ceremony of release. And in that conversation came someone that was released. So they were talking about the process of being released, and that it would be good to just to allow those kids to be released. I mean, to be like part of the ceremony of release. I'm sorry. Chapter 5. It's when Jonas tells the parents the steerings that he had with who? With Fiona in particular, okay? And after those steerings, we know that from there on, Jonas is going to what? He's going to start taking his pills, basically on and on, okay? Chapter 6. So we got the ceremony, and we find out that Gabe is going to have an extra what? They're going to give him an extra what? An extra year. So he's going to be taken care of for an extra year, okay? And he's going to be in whose dwelling? In Jonas' dwelling, okay? Jonas is going to watch Ceremony of 9. And we know that they get the bicycles. Ceremony of 10. What did they do with the 10s? They get a new what?
Haircut.
A new haircut. And what happens with 11? 11 is like so boring. Yeah, but it's like Jonas expresses how boring is that ceremony of 11. Okay, probably is because he's already going to be a 12 and he's excited and all that. And he's like, oh, useless the ceremony of 11. Chapter 8, I'm sorry. 7, the ceremony of 12 actually begins. And we're going to know that Jonas makes number what? In the order? 19. Okay, Jonas will be 19. So they're going to call number 1, number 2, number 3, and they're going to go on and on and on. Okay. What job does Asher get?
He's in charge of the recreational.
He's the assistant recreation director. Okay, that's Asher. Okay. So number 18 is called, and Jonas is right there, ready for what? For his turn. And what happens with the chief elder? Skips Jonas and goes with 20, 21, and on and on. And at that moment, what happens with Jonas? What goes through Jonas? He got very nervous because something is wrong. I've been skipped. Okay? The thought of Jonas is that he probably will not be assigned something. So that's why he's very scared. Now when we get to chapter 8, we know that the chief elder is going to what? With the community. So now apologize. Apologize for what? For that confusion, that commotion that was created by the skipping of Jonas. Okay? What happens with Jonas? He's called to go on stage. And ultimately, what happens? He's being selected as the chosen one to be the next what? Receiver of memory. Very good. Chapter 9. Jonas is starting to feel how from the rest of the friends? Like different. He starts to feel isolated because it's not the same. Once you hit the ceremony of 12, it's not like the same thing. For example, you guys, once you graduate from 12th grade, ultimately things will not be the same. Like what we have right now will not be the same, will not be seen again. Like that sharing of you guys that you guys have as a group will not be seen again, and it's a reality. You're gonna go to college, you're gonna make new friends. Some of you are gonna leave your parents' house because you're gonna just go and live other places. And as you grow older, you're gonna get married, have a family, have a job. And this, unless you made a reunion of the class, it's very difficult that you're going to be able to see the majority of your friends, of your colleagues. Why? Because of the rush of the jobs, the rush of the daily life. It will be very difficult So basically you have 2 years to enjoy what you have now. Okay? That will never come again. It will never happen again, so take advantage of that. Okay? It's not happening. Jonah's going to look at the rules that have been selected. He has a packet with the rules. We know that the set of rules that are given to Jonas are, some of them are different from Fiona, from Rosemary. Why? What's the reason?
Rosemary could apply for release, however, Jonas could not apply.
In Jonah's case, he's not going to be able to apply for release. So as I said before, as receivers start to go against the rules, the committee of elders are going to tweak up and like fix the ruling and adjust it to them. Okay. Chapter number 10. We got the beginning of the training of Jonas with the giver. So we're going to have all that process going on all through chapter number 10. Okay. He's going to notice about the room. He's going to see the room, and he's going to start to have feel in some way like unsure why he has been selected to be the next receiver of memory. So he's going to have his doubts all through that training. Okay. We meet the giver. We're going to have a better, more wide opinion on the giver, and we're going to have that explanation on what will be the purpose of the giver in this novel. Okay. Basically, on chapter 11, he's going to start getting the memories, and he's going to get the memory of the snow and the sled. That the first one, it was very good, and then the second one wasn't what?
It was more painful.
Was very painful. So you're going to have that contrast from memories. Okay. He's also going to find out that the climate was controlled by the committee of elders. Why? Because he had those memories, and we know that the community, they don't have snow and hails because they took it out to prevent what? Well, hunger in some way, because the crops, they were not going to be able to harvest because of the snow. So they eliminated that, so they have the flexibility of having food. Okay. Also, Jonas in chapter 11, he's going to have the first sunburn. Okay. Chapter 12, Jonas is going to learn about colors. The red of the sled. So we have the red of the apple. We're going to have the red of the sled. And also the giver will give Jonas the memory of what? If we're talking about colors, he's going to get one memory in particular.
Rainbow.
The rainbow. Very good. Memory of the rainbow. Very good. Chapter 13. Jonas is going to continue to feel a part, not only of his friends, of the community, because his training is isolated from the others. Okay. As the training goes on, he's going to have harder and harder memories of war, hunger, and other things that confuse and get him angry on why we don't have these things and why these bad things are happening. Okay. And also important, Jonas is told by the giver that he cannot tell nothing about the training. So everything that they discuss there stays in that room. Chapter 14, we're going to have the second sled ride. And that sled ride is going to be very painful for Jonas. Okay, so that will be in chapter, which one? 14. Also, accidentally, Jonas is going to do what with Gabe? He's going to pass out the memory. Okay, so accidentally, he's going to pass that memory. And chapter 15 is when Jonas walks into the room and the giver is going to be with that pain. And he's going to be struggling with that pain. And Jonas is going to take that punishment, that pain that the giver is taking. Okay, so in some way to help him out. Okay. Chapter 16, the giver is going to give Jonas his favorite memory. And that's the memory of what? of what? Of Christmas. Okay? And nowadays, I think that's the best season of the year. I think the Christmas for us is like the best. Not only we get 3 weeks of vacation, but we have that time of having Christmas that is a very beautiful time of the year. Jonas also is going to stop taking what? The pills. He's going to quit them. Okay? Chapter 17, we're going to have the game of the plane of war, and we're going to have that internal conflict for Jonas because he already have witnessed the problematics of what? Of war and the suffering, okay? So we're going to have that debate between Jonas and Asher. Chapter 18, Jonas and the giver are going to have the discussion of what? Release. And that's when Jonas learns what?
That real process of that release is actually
Exactly. Also, we're going to have a conversation about Rosemary and what actually happened with her. And chapter 19, after all of that conversation, the giver is going to give Jonas the opportunity to what? To see what? To see an actual release. And Jonas in that chapter is going to get very angry with who? With his father. Because he's saying that his father in some way has lied to him. Okay? Chapter 20, after all of this, Jonas is going to refuse to what? Like he doesn't want to go home. Because he doesn't want to look his father in the eye. And because he believes that what he's doing is doing something wrong. Okay? The plan of Jonas leaving the community will also be built in chapter 20. Okay? So they're going to come up with the plan of Jonas escaping the community. Okay? Also, the giver is going to reveal to Jonas that Rosemary was what? His daughter. So he's going to find out that Rosemary is the daughter. Chapter 21 is when he finds out that Gabe is going to be released, and he says, you know what? We're leaving. So he decides to leave. Okay? As he leaves, he goes elsewhere, well, not elsewhere, goes beside the boundary, and who's going to follow? Like, what's going to be following Jonas around? A plane. It's going to follow, and Jonas is going to have a big struggle trying to just get away from that plane, because if not, he's going to have to go back to the community and face a major punishment, and ultimately he will be released. Okay? Ultimately, he's going to stop seeing the plane, and he's going to continue his path. Chapter 22. As time goes by, it's more and more difficult for Jonas to continue the path. That's why before Jonas left, the giver, what? By passing memories, courage, and all the things that Jonas needed to overcome what he was going to find on his path, okay? He's going to go through the cold weather, and in some ways he's going to pass memories of warmth for Gabe, because he's protecting Gabe, and if not, Gabe will ultimately die if that wouldn't happen. So we're going to have that bond and that connection between Jonas and Gabe. Ultimately, in chapter number 23, what's going to happen in the last chapter? How Jonas finally gets to that home that he sees with the sled. So he's going to have a third sled ride, but what is different between this one and the other two? That the other two were memories, and this one is actually what? Real. It's going to have the opportunity to go in an actual sled and touch it as something tangible, not a memory. Okay? So basically, they're going to ride down to a house where there's lights, and when they end their path, what's going to happen? Ultimately, they're going to get to the house, and our novel ends. Okay? So we're going to have an intention of a utopian society where the climate is being controlled, everything is strict, and Jonas, in a way, is different from the rest. different in a way because he has been the chosen one, and therefore he's going to be the one that will ultimately make the people of the community have those memories, because once Jonas crosses, those memories are going to go back to the community. Why the giver stays? Well, because he had to help the community. Can you imagine those two people just going out? That community will never be able to what? To reestablish himself and to be better, because it was going to be ultimate chaos. So, Hunger Games, Divergent, a lot of people have told about Maze Runner novels and that have been compared to The Giver. But as we read our summer reading novel, we find out that the pioneer of these stories has been The Giver. There has been a lot of criticism with Lois Lowry because a lot of conservative people have been against what he has done, what she has done in that novel. But I think it's a novel that gives different perspectives, and it gives us an insight of our society. We know that climate at some point it has been changed, has been modified, and we know that there's something that is called a heart, and they use it for climate control. We know that there are places that they have tried to just get a society that has been all strict with food, with everything. So that's not something that could be away from our world and our community, because it's something that is possible to be done. Release is an enigma. An enigma, like right now dying. We don't know what eventually is going to happen when we die. So that's something. It's an enigma for us, and it's an enigma for the community. So there is a lot of similarities between our daily life basis and their community, and there's a bunch of differences. But in overall, it's a novel that is very good, gives you an insight. Vocabulary is very simple, so it's very easy to read and go along. It's a novel of how many, 100-something pages, so it's not that long of a novel. So nothing, in general, that will be it for our discussion of the novel The Giver. Thank you.